officially recording the April class board meeting, April 4th, 2022. And we have a small crowd today, so we're going to have a lot of caring and sharing that goes on to bring everybody up to speed. We won't be able to do any voting. We don't have a quorum for today's meeting, and we don't have financials to talk about, so we'll just say that they will become available as soon as possible that we can share with the class board. Did everybody get the agenda that was sent out and have a chance to look that over a little bit?
Yep, okay.
Good. Well, let's see here to make this, we can really make this certainly much briefer than an hour and a half. And we'll be able to get a little bit of an update from Julia. And then we can talk about just kind of the order of things on the agenda here and wrap things up early. So just kind of a quick review. We have started our lunch and learn events, which the first of which took place February 16th on Lunch and Learn. And then we had our most recent networking event, which was on March 9th. I keep looking back because I have to look at dates that I had written up on my calendar there. And both were well attended. It was very good. We had some good conversation. We broke into some breakout sessions for the networking meeting, and help refresh my memory, the speaker that we had for housing, Kate, that was on the Lunch and Learn.
It was John and I don't remember the name of the other
I'm
gentleman.
sorry. But that recording did go out, so we at least had all that information. So one of the things that we are doing this year is, doing this year with our networking events, is we are inviting a speaker each time to come to begin the first 10 minutes of the networking meeting. And our intent is to have somebody who can come and talk about a senior topic and have, out of those first 10 minutes, roughly the first third or fourth, having that information pertain to the industry that that person is in. Kind of more of a generic information about the industry. And then the last 5 or 6 minutes can be more specifically about that individual's company or what they're doing for seniors. And so we did have our first one with a speaker on, it was a memorial forest up in Scandia. So that was very interesting. Julia, you were on that call. Kate and Katie, I believe, were on that call, right? How did you feel about that? Was that a good, I mean, it was a nice and refreshing, we got to hear a little bit more about what we didn't know about that particular forest and the new opportunity when it came to, cemeteries versus cremation and that type of thing.
We've actually had two. Trellis was our first speaker.
Right.
And so the second one was Ann Morehouse with Better Forests, talking about that. And I think the takeaway that the executive team had talked about briefly after it was ensuring that we did a good job of marketing beforehand, letting people know about the upcoming event, talking with the organization to make sure that we do a fair job of representing the industry as a whole, as well as their individual organization, just so that way there's a good balance between the two. But it's definitely encouraged more communication, I think, between senior service professionals on what they have to offer.
Right.
I thought I think actually I had to come on late because of another meeting, but I heard some of the forest presentation, and it was very refreshing because it's not something we talk about much. It's not really in my purview because public health is about prevention. So once someone is in long-term care or ready for a funeral, they're not really in my realm. But I personally thought it was really interesting and not a presentation that I've seen anywhere else. So I thought it was really worthwhile.
And she actually gave us an invite if we get back to regular meetings to go up to Scandia sometime to hold a board meeting if we wanted to. So I don't know, something to think about. It looked beautiful up there. Yeah. All right. And so John had a couple points of interest that he put down, we don't have to go through all of this because we are kind of talking this through here. Then one of the things that we were talking about, we still have some duties on class that we would love to have some positions filled just to kind of help with the load. And we'll talk about that a little later as we go on. So moving on to the next part of the meeting, a couple of things that we have in process. By May 15th, I will get the taxes completed and sent off for class with the help of Cindy O'Donovan. And then I think, Katie, this was the time I was going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit on the newsletter, or do we have that listed a little bit later here?
I think this is it.
So yes, we didn't give you enough blue ink to introduce you here. So you just get the nice little short bullet point to be talking about our newsletter.
That sounds good. If
Yeah.
you want to, I put together the start of a template this morning.
Good.
So if you want to give me, can I share my screen already?
Yep,
Oh,
you
look at
can.
that. So I've just put together a really basic header. I made this joke in my head and I had to put it somewhere. It's the classiest newsletter around.
Love
I
that.
like it.
I would not be hurt if you told me to take it out when we really send this newsletter, but it had to come out of my head. So it's there for now.
I love
I
it.
like it.
You bet.
I think
Love
you
Sometimes
the
just wrote our
creativity.
tagline.
I feel like sometimes you just need a little sense of humor. So
Yes.
that this first part we can kind of keep from newsletter to newsletter, and I have this as just a Google Doc template, so I'll put that in the drive for the whichever Gmail it was that I just signed into. So we've got that kind of in perpetuity also. And then I just kind of set it up. So this is kind of what events will look like. We can put whatever logo they give us, the event title, a short description, and when and where it is, that kind of really basic information. And then we're able to, I put the document in the Google Drive that I was using, so we can just link to any flyers people give us too. So super simple. And then I can put at the bottom the link for where to put information in. We're planning on having this go out once a month. We had talked about when to send this out, and I had mentioned maybe doing it in coordination with like our network meetings. So at the meeting we can announce to get information in. Then I was looking at the calendar, and that would have us sending the newsletter out like the 4th week of the month or something, which I think might just be confusing to people as they're sending us information. So I wonder if we just tell people it's got to come in by the last whatever day of the month, and then it goes out around the 1st or something, just so that people are sending us relevant dated information. Might be the easiest.
Yeah, I think it kind of makes me, it confuses me when I get newsletters for April in the middle of April. I'm like, is this May? Is this April? These things that have passed, or these things coming up?
Yeah.
I had
A
never
good
thought
idea.
of that. I'm on the other end. It would seem very appropriate to get an April newsletter in April, but
Oh, no, I mean the beginning of April, but I get some like the 10th of
Okay.
April or the end of April. I don't know what to do with this information.
Yeah. Yes, we
Right.
definitely want event information to go out before the events have happened. So
And Chris, Katie, if you wouldn't mind, if you feel comfortable in explaining how we got to this point and why we're doing this, and if you'd rather for me to explain it, I'm happy to, but go ahead. Like we said
Yeah.
last week, this is your baby now.
yeah, so we had gotten requests as class for like our event is coming up from like member organizations that don't necessarily weren't being posted to our website, but like we've got a fundraiser coming up or whatever, just more like timely news from people than is necessarily worth getting posted to our website. So this can be more of those like other events that people have coming up. Getting into this newsletter will be a members only benefit. So people who come to our network meetings but aren't necessarily members won't get their events into the newsletter, but that's a good incentive maybe to get people to kind of join up as members. So kind of a nice benefit to share some of those goings on with the network. And since it's monthly, it'll be kind of a quicker and more frequent thing to go out to people too.
Will it only be events? Could there be other, some kind of high level news things?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about when we kind of designed this. And let's even take a further step back. And Kate, maybe you can share a screen just to show, we got a jot form put together so that on the website. In fact, Katie, if you want to go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in on what you were saying there if you want to.
No, that's fine.
Oh, Katie, please, because I haven't
Okay.
eaten, so I'm heating up food.
Yes, I can get us a look at the form too.
So we thought we'd just make it universal, Chris. So Kate and John put together a jot form that Katie is pulling up. And so you, as a member, can go to this jot form and post your information. And Katie will then grab all those details and she will form the newsletter. So we're not writing a newsletter. Class isn't putting in their own script for things. This is member driven.
So it'll just look like this.
Okay, it really is just event focused then. Okay.
Do you have an example of what else might be something you were thinking of if it wasn't an event?
Well, yeah, one thing that's current for that I would think is of interest to any group working in the aging sector is there's a piece of legislation that is going to be in the conference committee, and it would establish a task force to review how prepared we are as a state for our aging demographic. And I think we probably all would argue we're not prepared at all. And what could come of this, one of the possibilities is establishing a standalone department on aging. So there would be a total focus and not just to put a service focus, but more importantly, a planning focus and get us better prepared to handle the rapid growth of the elder population. That's one example.
Okay. Julia, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, so I think that's great. My concern, so I'm assuming most of you know that I send out a weekly email that has resources and then a monthly email that has less urgent things. I know how much of my time it takes to curate those and put those together. It is an enormous amount of my time during the week.
Yeah.
And I love the information. Maybe you can send it to me and I can include it, but I would really ask class to think long and hard about whether they want to include anything that comes from not providers. It is a heavy lift.
And I would imagine if you start with some piece of information, you can't just stop there. You've got to stay very current if you are wanting to be that voice, I guess, right?
Yeah, it depends on the thing, but yes, I mean, I got something in my email today about the St. Paul housing ordinance, and I had to call John and say, is this still current?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe one thing that we could do that would kind of stick to the theme of the newsletter, if there is like an upcoming hearing or like a deadline to talk to your representatives or those sorts of, like if there's a date connected to something, we could maybe put that sort of information, like check out the legislative session on this date or whatever. We can maybe put that sort of stuff in. And then people who are really in tune with that will be able to participate as they choose.
And it, that's just an example, and with legislation, you never have a date. I mean, that's that world. So,
Right.
and I would caution about it. So I'm the one bringing it up because I thought that would be of interest, but I caution on it because once you open up that box, then you start inviting other, things that people would argue, why is that? I don't need to pay attention to that, so
Right.
just doing this approach is clean, easy. It's probably the best way to start.
And that doesn't suggest that we couldn't take a look at this, 6 months after giving it a trial to see, number one, what kind of participation we're getting. Number two, are we missing things that, 8 different members don't really have an event, but they have a concern about information going out and they'd like to see it change a little bit. We could certainly consider that, but we felt that this was a place to start. Another great member perk, and they didn't have to keep sending something to us. There'd be monthly deadlines, and then Katie would format the newsletter, and here we go.
Sounds good.
Was there anything else you guys wanted to see on here? I can stop sharing my screen too.
Just a reminder that when you all have that newsletter, if you want it to go out to my mailing list, just shoot it my way and let me know.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. All right, good. Let's see what else we have down the agenda here. Oh, this is where we were hoping to have some input from, some of the board members who may wish to step into a role of helping us offload a few things. And my thought was, Julia, that Elise very possibly could be the representative, if she's willing, for the Ramsey age-friendly Ramsey County. Did I say that right, or is it Ramsey County age-friendly?
No, and the name is in flux because the county seems to have a very difficult time, understandably, separating healthy aging initiative, which is my job, from age-friendly initiative, which is way beyond my work. And so there's a subgroup of folks looking at what they want to make it, what they want to call it. It'll at least turn into partnership, not initiative. So I call it whatever you want right now. Elise I haven't heard from or seen Elise in, I don't remember last time. No, that's not true. I think it was maybe January or February. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try to reach out beyond just the emails here to see if you have her number, Julia, and I can look up at an old email.
Quite sure that I do.
Please send that my way, because I'd just love to have a chat with her and find out if anything's changed. And
Right.
because we didn't even really get started with her on, I mean, she's on the board, but we haven't had a chance to even see her live on any meeting here.
All right, I'm going to throw her work cell in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. So what we're looking to have accomplished is a little bit of that with age-friendly Ramsey County, having a representative who can come back and report in the event that Julia is not able to join us. At least there'd be somebody connected to class directly beyond just our wonderful liaison, Julia. And so that would be one position. The other one would be helping me with our networking meetings, helping me source out, interested speakers, helping me maybe organize for the networking event, playing a part of being on the call and have a speaking part during the meeting. We could kind of tag team a little bit, and rather than it just having be my voice out there all the time, it'd be great to have somebody else that could be on the team to help with that. And then Christine, I know that you had expressed some willingness to, as we talk grant writing, we don't really know what that means or what we want to get involved with. But we do know that I think it's going to be important for us to have some grant monies coming in, because as of now, we are maintaining Kate, and that is a service as a contractor that we will need some funding for. And with what she's doing, it's playing just such a huge role for the ongoing progress of class to help with these kind of meetings, these newsletters, these event type things getting hosted and posted onto our websites. Very important that we keep that going. Great part of where class is growing is that we have had more memberships that have come aboard within the last 2-3 weeks, which is very helpful. And the more that the word gets out there and the more that we become an organization where your membership gets you something and it means something, that will also help with our budgeting as well. Julie, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, a couple things. One is I'm all in support of you not having to do all that yourself. Because you know, that's, I wouldn't call it a heavy lift, but it's a lift. The other thing is that it might be useful for you all to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kidnap, that's not the word I'm looking for, but skate behind the networking meetings that we're hosting, because we had someone from Elderly Waiver come and it was a huge success. People loved it. They decided they want to meet every other month instead of quarterly. Next, in June, I'm bringing in the person who is supervises the 5 service centers that are out in the community now for Ramsey County. So there are some times when you all could poach, that's the word I'm looking for, poach some of the folks that I'm bringing also.
And I was just going to mention, I think I saw this correctly, but the meetings that you posted are the same, the networking meetings are the same days of classes networking meetings. I don't know if you were aware of that or not.
I am not. I was not. Of course, it makes sense. You all are way in the morning, though.
Yes. 8:30 to 10, and then yours
I mean,
is
then people are awake. They can come to my meeting.
very good. Yeah.
Scott, what I will suggest as a first step on the grant writing, there's a number of foundations that focus just on the eastern suburbs, and I'll pull those out and share, you know, kind of what their focus areas are. That might help us get the wheels spinning.
Yeah, and if we did decide to go in that direction, would we be able to call on you? And now I see Diane has joined us. She was in her car, so she's on the phone here. Would that suggest that maybe the help from you, Christine, and Diane to help write those grants would come into play?
Well, as Kate knows, I absolutely detest grant writing, but I do it all the time. So yes, I would help.
Yeah, I would echo that on my end as well. So good to know
I'm
that.
going to voluntold Diane. I'm sure that she could help. She said she will not be talking with us, just listening today.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you, Julia. So Diane, we will not get mad at you for not having input here. We will know that you were listening intently.
I think we should assign her some tasks, though.
Well, there you go. Yeah, if you don't want these tasks, could we hear your voice? That's how it usually goes. You know, this isn't kind of funny, but anytime you've got a whole lineup of people and said, anyone interested in stepping up for this role, please step forward. And that's when the rest of the team takes one step back and you're left standing there. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. So you need to be quick on your feet. Okay, so we have the lunch and learns kind of worked out here for the rest of the year. John and Katie and Allie. Again, Katie, thanks so much. Katie stepped up for doing our newsletter, and she's going to be helping John and Allie with our lunch and learns and planning out those speakers, which we think are going to be really a nice addition to what we do. And what else am I missing here, Kate? We talked about the Ramsey County Age Friendly, having a board member attend those meetings that Julia is hosting and be able to report back to the class board. And or, talk a little bit maybe in our networking meeting if Julia is not attending, because I think that's always good to have some of that information out there.
So I can take a couple seconds to cover my secretary spot unless Julie, you wanted to respond to the age friendly thing before I jumped.
I just noticed that Diane is in the chat box. She is actually not allowed to help write grants. That is my understanding, but she can review grants. I mean, she could get on here and say totally different, but that's my understanding.
Good to know. Thank you.
So kind of some back end pieces. This covers both hats that I wear. So we've been keeping up the website as new members have been signing up. I've been adding their information, making sure that their logos are accurate, their contact information is up to date. It's had a little bit of back and forth just so that way we were specifying if an individual signs up that it's not, if it's an individual membership, it doesn't cover other members of the organization. So making sure people can choose which one that they want. It's a little bit of back and forth discussion, making sure that we're covering all the parts. Not everyone has taken to sending us the additional link to either a social media page or something specific on their site. That hasn't come to fruition quite how we envisioned, which is why I think this newsletter will be really a good way to maybe provide that as well. We've sent the initial email out to everybody. Scott, I've not had the chance to send out the follow-up ones because our next step that we wanted to do was reach out to the members who have not re-upped their membership and say, hey, just a friendly reminder, if you still want to be on here, please renew your membership. Otherwise, your organization is coming off of our website, and then reaching out to our networking contact list that we have. We have a spreadsheet of contacts. We have a Google Contacts list. I need to combine the two because a lot of people that we've previously had have also left positions, are no longer with organizations and so forth, just as the nature of COVID has progressed, some of that change in occupation. So there's a lot of back end things that are happening that don't affect the overall functioning of class as a network, but that do help perpetuate our ability to have members and have their interest in, showing off their organization. So
When did you anticipate that email going out to members who have not responded to re-upping?
Oh, I intended it last week.
Oh, okay.
But it's on the list, Scott. It's on the list.
Perfect. I just want to make certain you weren't still needing something from me because you got that script I sent, correct?
Oh, I did, Scott. The thing I
good.
need from you is time, which you can't give me. So the time to sit down and cross compare everything to make sure that I've got the information accurate. So that is completely on my shoulders. Nobody else's responsibility at this point. I believe, owe class a invoice and project timesheet for the month of March, which also is on my things of to-dos. The biggest time involvement has been making sure that the dual hat, when I have a new member, making sure as my role as secretary that their information is up to date and accurate in all of our systems. And then as my role as freelancer, making sure that the information on the website is communicated accurately. So I do ask that any members, previous members, new members, double check that the information that they've sent is uploaded correctly, because there's just enough stuff it's just powerful enough to make a mistake. And I'd rather make sure that we're doing it right, because then we look better as an organization.
I'm just physically raising my hand rather than putting the icon up. Does that work?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Do you have an idea of how many of the memberships that have just come in within the last 3 weeks? How many of them are brand new to class?
Give me a second.
And the second question would simply be, have we had any notifications from any past members who have decided not to continue on and have messaged you on that?
Oh.
Some are new members in terms of membership, but have participated in class networking events.
Yep.
So an example might be Dawn Thompson from the Safe Harbor Estate Law. Margaret Barrett has been a member previously. Dawn is newer. She's been attending the meetings, so she started her membership. I saw someone come through that I was not familiar with her name. It's Sonia Earlbeck. And she actually shared a comment that said, thought you were disbanded. Glad to see you are still working on senior issues in White Bear Lake area.
Yeah,
We've
she's
not-
a community member.
Which that makes sense why I wouldn't be putting her on our website. Because I was like, unemployed. This feels like more of a personal interaction. So good stuff. But all the members that I've seen thus far have been participants in one of our events that have shown interest in becoming members.
So would you say that we're at close to 4 or 5 brand new members, regardless of whether they've been to networking events, but actual joining members to class?
I can't say that with confidence, but I can't not say that with confidence either.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I bet it's close to 4 or 5 brand new, which is, that's exciting to me. I mean, it's exciting that we've got that outreach. And now I think what would be more exciting is that if our existing, following up on the email that's going to go out, we didn't lose anybody.
I'm
You know,
curious to
we're
hear
always-
about where Sonia found out that the group is still active. That's
Oh.
really interesting to me.
Right.
So as of right now, and I don't know that I've added, I think I've added everybody in. We have 18 months, we have 15 people currently who have updated their membership, but we've had other individuals reach out saying, I need to renew my membership. How do I do this? And other members that Christine, I know are members and I just need to make sure that they're members in good standing. And
Did you have something in your throat, Kate?
just a little bit. I
Okay.
figured I would get a nice little head whack for that.
You will brace yourself.
But we have people that we know are going to be renewing their membership that just haven't done so yet.
Yep.
So at this point, it's 15 officially paid for updated members.
And we've had two or three of them have done the $100 amount.
Yes, yes. So
Do you all keep track anyhow? Do you think it'd be worth, maybe you do already, of where people how people find you?
We haven't, but I would say that most of them, with a couple exceptions, have been an attendee of a networking event.
Well, I guess also, where do they find out about the networking events?
Yeah, that's probably even a better question.
I
think
know
they're-
that we've also been in the care providers magazine or newsletter that we were sending out.
You all right there, Kate?
My chair just broke, so
Oh, no.
you were about to see me go flying off the back. See, Chris, my head injury was, you cursed my
Knocked her
chair.
off her chair.
Thank God. Well, Kate, as you're repairing there, is there anything else that you wanted to share in the secretary end of things? Are we up to speed?
We've been keeping up on all of our videos going out for all of our events. So I feel like that's also a benefit that we've really capitalized on during the pandemic, that even if people aren't able to attend directly, I do know of people who are members and don't attend our meetings directly, but participate by watching the videos afterwards. So I feel like we're not just being seen by the people who are on video right now, but we are seen beyond that. So I think we are doing a good job of keeping track of that information and being able to post that stuff. And we have really good data on the back end of stuff that we've been able to share. I've spent time with Michelle getting her up to speed on the financials. So that way, how I was doing it in my secretarial position, she's now kind of taking the lead. As Scott said, in terms of asking people for help, the biggest challenge is that we don't always know how to ask for help properly, and we second and third guess. So it's, trying to release the wheel and say, I trust you, and then truly meaning it. And I've really appreciated, Katie, your help in stepping up to do newsletter stuff, that creativity just breathes life into me being able to be like, yeah, I can do this easy thing. It's not the 20 other things I was also trying to do at the same time. So that's been really helpful. As a secretary, I feel like I can do more of a job of keeping track of the nuts and bolts of class.
And Chris, again, certainly, we're not trying to gang up on you at all, but this is the first that we've seen you in a while, so we're happy to have you here. Is there anything that we've talked about that causes some interest to stir in you to say, yeah, I would step up to do that as a board member? And I don't need an answer right now. Just think about it. You can get back to me privately if you'd like, but thought we would bring it up for discussion, and I will be reaching out to Elise as well.
You know, I would say, and my wheels were going this direction, since we're focused statewide geographically. Yeah, so that you know, the opportunities are less here. Not that I'm giving up on this, but because I don't know. Maybe I'm not the right kind of, you know, person. Maybe you want something, you know, more regionally focused than somebody like me that's more statewide focused. But then again, Elise too is statewide focused, so.
Right, and I think for the things that we're looking for, just from a class board standpoint, whether it's saying, yes, I'll be willing to help out and do some things to help organize the networking meetings, or, you know, if we ask Elise to see if she'd be part of the age friendly to be able to report those kind of, for lack of better terms, smaller projects that aren't so time consuming, but they're very helpful to have some of the other board members to be able to offload. And now the board as a whole has got some different things to stay busy with. And then as we get to a point of figuring out if we are truly going to host an event in the months to come or early next year, whatever that might be, depending upon COVID, then yes, do we have a team that's together that's willing to say, I will take this role and I will take that role, and we'll get one of these events to take place. We just don't know what the future looks like, but in the meantime, here are the things that we've just talked about today that are keeping class going. And I think more importantly, vibrant, not just going, but we're actually a vibrant organization with how we've changed the way we've done things. So maybe just consider that. You and I can have a conversation at another time and just think that through a little bit.
Sure, and you know, the grant, that seems like a really, for me, a logical fit that I can make sense for my organization and class as well. So let me kind of do my focus there if that would be satisfactory.
I think that would be fantastic. I think that would be great.
Okay.
And what we would owe you then, and not we owe you, but as a board, we would come together with kind of an agreement on a budget for what we'd be looking for and what's the type of funding that we would have to have a grant underwritten for. So in other words, you're kind of sitting there thinking, well, am I looking for a grant to get 10,000, 5,000, 1,000? The board needs to come up with a budget for how we can keep.
Yeah, and a lot of these foundations really like partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I'm thinking through. And there might be other, that partnership can be beyond class and elder voice. It could be other members of class,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that come together specifically, you know, but class can be that organizing entity. I'm just thinking out loud, you know.
Yeah, and I'll share with you, and we'll get on to the next topic here, but as I was doing the New Tracks work in transportation with some of the circulator loops, I had Heather Peterson from Allina Health reach out, and we've had great conversations, and she's actually had monies donated to New Tracks to further the cause with our circulator loops, because she's on the outreach side of things for the Allina Health. And where it went from there is I asked her about, do you reach out to other organizations, or do you ever consider other donations, and they are considering with an application that we would make, it wouldn't be a grant, but it might be between $500 and $1,000 to come to class for the reasons that I just spoke on. So yes, beyond grant writing, it could be simply how do we garner donations, that type of thing. So
Good, okay,
be happy to chat more with you on that as time goes on here.
sounds good.
Anybody else have any other questions just on that topic? Diane, I think you wanted to say something? I'm just kidding. Okay, moving on. We don't have a treasurer's report, but I can tell you the report about our treasurers that her and I have been to the bank. We have signatures all set up for now, both of us. And what Kate is doing in conjunction with what Michelle is doing is we're getting information set up on our Google Drive so that when transitioning to the next treasurer comes into play, we have kind of a how-to and what has to take place and how to stay current. And we're not chasing after people going, now, what was that code? What was that login code that you had, Tara, 12 years ago? So, and we did quite a bit of that chasing, didn't we? So now we've got a system, we have a program, we have a way to do it. So when transitions come with our class board, we are on top of it. And then Michelle will have financial statements that will come out shortly. All right, Kate, you had talked your secretary part there. We have posted our board meeting minutes for 21 and 22 so far on our website, so feel free to go visit that. We talked about our grant writing. We'll have more of a budget talk in the weeks to come and what that means. And then it kind of leads us right into the budget for 2022. I think what we should probably do, since we don't have enough board members for even a quorum here today, we'll use this as kind of a talking point. If there's any input, that would be great. Otherwise, we will table that until our next board meeting, and we'll have an agenda that goes out so we can make some decisions as to what we think we should be budgeting for the remainder of 2022.
I have a question that, Chris, you might know. When we're looking at a lot of these grants, I feel like a lot of them that I've seen are not to cover operations. So like if we know that we want to continue doing regular things, like that's not grant fundable.
Yeah, that's true, because there are a few of them and they're just heavenly to get. But so this would have to be program related.
So the question I would have, and I think that's great that you bring it up, Katie. What we have agonized over a little bit is that Kate is not just the web developer, but as we take a look at the program that's been put forth, the project would simply be, we're gathering great tools of information from service providers, and that becomes kind of that year-long event that we're not just paying Kate and she's putting nice little tickers on our website.
But
It's
that's,
actually that organization, and it could be,
Yeah.
Even part of what Katie does with that newsletter piece.
and that would work just fine, because you've got a specific use project that you want to fund it for.
Yeah,
So,
but I agree with you, Katie. What I've seen out there as well as when I've talked with even Heather Peterson for the donation, they really don't want it to be just from an operations standpoint, but if there are some things that really help the inner going-ons, they're very willing to take a look at that donation to further what class is doing.
And Chris and Scott and grant focused people, if there are things that I can do in my descriptions, I try to provide a good project timesheet that gives you that language or ability to make it work for what you're going for. And so if I'm writing it in a way that needs to be changed, let me know what kind of language I can do to capture that work, so it doesn't appear too operational, that it's actually this advancement of a particular project.
Kate, on our drive, do we have your monthly reports? Did we transfer that over? Have we done that yet?
I don't know if those were transferred over, but I have all of them available that we can do
Yeah.
that.
I think what would be a good idea, because you are a contractor to class, It'd be great to have that on the Google Drive so that future reference to all the reporting you've done very diligently through this last year and a half, it'll be at the fingertips of any board member who wishes to view it.
Sure, I can do that.
I just think that's good accountability, and if we ever have question about what's going on, we could certainly have those at our fingertips to share. All right, let's see here. As long, we've got both Katie and Julia here for some liaison reporting if you'd like. We'd be happy to give you the floor here.
Katie?
Well, technically, I'm an official board member now, but I can give you a quick Vadnais Heights update. So we have lots of summer things coming. Summer is always very exciting around here. So we're doing 4 Music in the Park events this year. The Ice Cream Social is in June, and then Heritage Days is mid-August. I'm part of Heritage Days is our senior picnic, which is a big event for us. And I'm trying to figure out a practical way that I can get people who are involved with class involved with the senior picnic. There are only so many of us that work here, so I'm trying to make that manageable, but it's also, I mean, we can get 200 or 250 seniors at that event. So if there's a way to get lots of information to all of those people, I would love to do that. So work in progress there. But
And make your city council members help you.
No kidding.
easier said than done, as it turns out.
Oh, but see, you've got me twisting the arm of one of them. So you just
Yeah.
tell me what I need to tell them and I got you covered.
And then you build
Perfect.
competition, right? Then you can say, well, so-and-so's involved.
Right. Yeah, so lots of busy things going on here. We have programs coming up for spring and summer. Eventually, we're gonna not have snow anymore, and then we'll be able to do more stuff outside. We've got people asking when they can go use our soccer fields and our baseball fields, and we keep saying next week, and then it snows again. So soon we will get people back out. We have lots of tennis programs this summer, if there's anyone interested in tennis, for kids and adults and families. And then our senior highlights group meets a couple of Wednesdays a month. They're back at it. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.
So Katie, that just makes me think a little bit in terms of being able to expand class and class interests, that if you have connections to other city folk that do the work that you do, and with our new effort in the newsletter, it might be a good time. It's another way for us to really make awareness of senior service providers and events happening, that could be kind of part of a newsletter, part of an experience, something that brings us together as a community, might make that growth out of just our networking events and virtual stuff a natural segue into more of the in-person as we move forward.
And Katie, I was going to ask you, if you're looking for some of that help, are you thinking that you would have vendor tables that you wanted at this senior picnic, or still too early to tell?
So we traditionally have had like 4, maybe 5 at the event, partly because we have them in the lobby at the Commons, which is kind of limited in physical space. So my initial brainstorm is potentially having pre-stuffed goodie bags, and people could bring brochures or giveaways or whatever to us. And then each of the attendees would get those. I have started thinking about other ways that we could expand how many people are there in person. Vendors are there in person too, because I think that would be nice. The other side of that is that we know that the seniors just go through and like swipe all the free stuff and then move on. So setting the expectation for people who are there that like they're there as a social event, and as much as we want them to gain some knowledge about resources, they don't tend to have extended conversations with anyone.
Well, let us know if class can be of help in any way as you're starting to develop this plan.
Yeah.
Good. Julia.
Yeah, so the age friendly, which again is on not my work, it's a collaboration between the county and the community, we have not yet joined the AARP network officially. We can do age-friendly work without joining the age-friendly network that AARP has. And we've had some really interesting conversations about that. So yeah, so there's we are. The reason I say that is once we join the AARP network, if we decide to, then there are timelines that we have to get things done under. One of the things that I really appreciate about this group is that they are really committed to doing this right, meaning the focus on communities that have been cut out of the system, the communities that experience disparities, and being a team that reflects those communities. You know, you can look around, we have folks that, you know, we have Black, Indigenous, well, we don't have Indigenous, people of color, but we're still mostly beige. So we're trying to do this in the right way and focus on the process, not just the event. And God bless, I don't know if y'all know Metric Giles, but he is just a powerhouse and he challenges us all the time about, are we ready to do this? Are we ready to develop the vision and mission statement? Because we're developing it. We're not necessarily developing it with the folks that are affected by it. So there is a group, and as part of that conversation, we talked about changing the name, partly because it's confusing for the county, but we could have dealt with that. But that the name didn't really reflect who we are and where we want to go. So a small group is getting together to talk about, do they want to call it Age-Friendly Partnership for Equity in Ramsey County? But they definitely want to build in some equity. So we're just continuing to bring people on board and do the work. We have the report. The end of the second stage was a report on current state of Ramsey County. And I'm going to talk to the board chairs about whether we can just send that out to everybody. I don't see why not. And no surprises there. Housing, transportation, and social connections. The next phase is to take that report to existing or building community groups and say, this is what you told us, because that data comes from community health assessments. It is what people have already told us. Now, what specifics can we talk about? Can't guarantee we can do those, but let's talk about what you experience and how we can look at changing some of those with community. We'll have to see how fast that goes, because we are in a process of educating ourselves about racism and looking at our process and our process and making sure that the team is equitable, so that when we go to the community and we want to create equity, that we are bringing what we have already. So we're practicing what we preach. So that's where we are. I think we're going to bring in some folks to talk about equity and racism, and of course there are lots of other equity issues, and including aging. So that's where we are. The other thing is, I know I've talked with you all many times maybe about the Healthy Aging conference, mini conferences. And we put all that on hold, obviously, for COVID. So we are just starting to look at doing that again. So Diane and I and Little Brothers and Rainbow Health are we are starting to plan an LGBTQ+ senior event in the fall. At the same time, so I'm not sharing both of those because that would not be manageable. So Rainbow Health is taking the lead on that. But so then I am working with the Somali community to create a Somali healthy aging event, and doing that, trying to do that the right way, bringing folks, having the event planned by Somali folks, not by white people. So that's coming up in the fall sometime. We haven't set a date. I'm going to be talking to you all next week about what I do, and I'm going to have to, like, I'll try not to talk really fast, but I'll try to get everything in those 15 minutes that I'm working on. I think that is it.
Excellent, thank you. A couple questions I have real quick here. Would you say, this is more of asking for opinion, but when we had met with Elise, this is probably 3 years ago now, prior to COVID, Age Friendly Minnesota kind of became this, there's 8 categories. Each community, if they decided to get involved, could do all of them, one of them, pick somewhere in between. Would you say that Ramsey County is getting closer to honing in on any 1 or 2 or 3 specific categories that we wish to go after first? That's my first question.
Yes. Because of those, one of the things that we have a consultant, Lydia Morton, came in and she's done a lot of age friendly work. She said, you don't have to focus on a specific topic. I find it simpler if we focus on a specific topic. But again, it's not my committee. This is a community driven. So I go there and Tisha and I and Emmy talk about what we think, but so it looks like my impression is that when we start to focus, it will be on those 3 issues that came up through the community health assessments, that it'll be housing, transportation, and social engagement. The issue with those things is how much power do we have? How much impact can we have? And in terms of housing and transportation, especially transportation, I don't think that's an area where we're going to have impact on Metro Transit. So we're going to have to look at that, but I think we're getting closer. I think getting input from or partnering with community, these groups will give us a better idea. If they tell us they want, more bus routes, we can certainly go to Metro Transit and say they want more bus routes, but we don't have any pull with Metro Transit. But the process is also making suggestions. We're not going to go to a city. We're not going to go to Vadnais Heights. We're not going to go to Metro Transit and say, you need to do this. That's not what this is about. So we'll have to see how this evolves. But those are the 3 that, and I am, for me, the most excited about social connection, because I feel like that's something we can really have some impact on. But, that's sort of a luxury after housing and transportation. So,
Thank you.
and what was the second question?
Well, just a comment to your answer there. When we have this whole big macro thing in front of us, this, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Right.
Part of what we could perhaps take a look at, and I'm just talking about from the transportation side of things. NewTrax, we have no issue having Ramsey County want to take any form of not so much recognition as much as kind of partnering with NewTrax. The fact that we've already got an East Side circulator that's running, and we're at Elders Lodge for the Native American. And that is growing, and we plan to go to a West Central St. Paul to get some things going there, the old Rondo communities and such. Those are the kind of things that whether it's Met Council for a Metro type of big project, or even just some small projects to say, we'll hang our hat on anything we can get and grow from there. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that, as a smaller organization, NewTrax, we can pivot on those kind of opportunities and start to make small impact that really starts to get the energy levels picked up in other areas. So think about that a little bit.
Yep.
The second part of the question was, due to COVID and George Floyd, that's going on what, almost coming up on 2 years ago now? Okay. Has that changed any way, or is that actually lifted more of the concern for age-friendly Ramsey County with racism and equity discussions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the conversation in this whole country has changed after George Floyd was murdered. Yeah. I mean, we heard one of the director of the U.S. Department of Defense use the term white supremacy and systematic racism. And that, I mean, that just was not part of the conversation before. In terms of Ramsey County, yeah, I mean, I think people are more energized. People are aware of all of the disparities that COVID just exaggerated and brought to the surface. And I think it's going to be, here's my hope, that will be a little bit easier to focus on those disparities for communities that have been cut out, for Black, Indigenous, people of color, because of all of the things that have happened, because that conversation is coming to the surface. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we had a really good conversation last meeting about racism, and I don't think we would have even had that conversation before George Floyd.
Sure.
So the Ramsey County as an institution has worked, has done a lot. I'm trying to do this in a politically correct way, has done a lot and continues to do a lot in terms of racism and marginalized communities. And, you know, we've been pushed to do things more along those lines too. Apparently do you all know about the 5 service centers that are out in the community now? So there are service centers, Maplewood Library, downtown St. Paul, another one in St. Paul. Anyway, I should know them, but I don't. And they're out in the community now. They're navigators for how do you navigate the Ramsey County systems. And apparently that was in the hopper, but COVID absolutely pushed that forward because we could not expect people to come to our buildings, which we shouldn't have been expecting anyway, but that's all.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
It does. And I just thought, because we're recording this, it would be worthy to have some of that discussion on there to see if that has changed a little bit of the way that we're walking down this path of age friendly. And I think, you know, anything that goes on in our world can certainly have impact as to how projects go. So thanks for that input.
And
So,
if I may, before, this is me
yes.
raising my hand,
go ahead. That works.
listening to this conversation, it brought to mind some of the ideas that we had about our lunch and learn events a while ago when we were asking if people wanted to speak. I think the intention was even for some collaborations about senior service groups and for organizations like, for example, Chris with Elder Voice, giving you 10 minutes to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in your organization, but there might be other organizations that have similar interests. So like if Julia is doing stuff with Ramsey County that also kind of, it creates more dialogue, it creates more impact. And it's not just people talking about their companies as we're a great company. It's more about this is why we're a resource and why we come together. Because one of the challenges I found with class when I first came on is we couldn't always figure out how our particular area fit in. I honestly can say, Scott, I was like, you seem like a great person, but what the heck does transportation do with Kate's musical memories? Not a darn thing. But it wasn't true because at the same time, it was the connections and the ability of understanding the work that you're doing. It's about connecting despite your specific area of responsibility, because you might know someone who's the perfect fit. So maybe using our networking events in those 10 minutes where people can speak to say, don't feel like you have to speak just on your company, but if you wanted to collaborate with someone or spend some time talking about things that are important issues, that's another good opportunity for us. And it could lead into some of the future discussions.
Yep, it is our hope that we have those meetings and those speakers to enlighten the audience with topical information, not just about their company, but the industry in which they work within.
Yeah. So Chris, if you want a platform, we have some dates in July, September, and November to be able to just anything important about Elder Voice, just let us know. We'll slide you in.
Actually, yeah, hopefully, as you know, Kate, we may have a new program that we'd love to announce. So
Yeah.
too early yet to know about that, but yep.
So Chris, would that be something where, how far out are we on lunch and learns?
The lunch and learn or the networking, because those are two different things.
Right, but the lunch and learn, do we have August filled? That's the transportation, is it not?
That's correct. It is August 17th. So the next one would be
Yeah.
October 12th, and I believe that's age friendly. And Chris, knowing the topic that what you're describing, that might be a very fitting one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know October was kind of that launching time that you were considering anyway, so maybe we could have
Right.
a separate conversation to even share with Scott what's been going on with that.
And we are developing another, smaller service, and that is, we'll give guidance to families who might want to install a camera, some sort of monitoring device, to just help families stay in touch, with their loved one. And that could be in the home too. It's not just long-term care. So
Right.
we'll get that framed up and let you know too.
Good. Thank you. Well, I think we're about to wrap up here, but I wanted to mention when Julia was talking about getting her speech ready here, that's based on April 13th. She is going to be talking at our next Lunch and Learn. So in just a little over a week here. And then on the agenda, it's got the remaining dates for 2022 with our networking, our board meetings, and our Lunch and Learn dates. We're showing the current roster of our executive team and board of directors, which we think on these agendas is important because if we're not able to attend all these meetings, it's very easy to forget who's on the team. So we want this to be a reminder of who you can call on and who you can partner with if you've got some questions on things. And then our community liaisons listed at the bottom. And Katie, I just included you as a community liaison because yes, you are a board member and we are so happy for that, but nobody filled your shoes to be a Vadnais Heights liaison. So you still get to carry that title.
Get Kevin or somebody to join us.
Yeah, unless she has somebody to pass the torch to, that's it. Finally, at the end, it's showing the dates and the times and the links that you've got electronically for the upcoming events. Our next board meeting is June 6th. At 1:30. We'll get our act together more and more as time goes on, but everybody, I thank you for joining us today. Is there anything else in closing minutes here that we have failed to touch on that you think would be pertinent to have on the board meeting?
Just a quick note that John organized Julia and I, so we have an email ready to go out in advance of the Lunch and Learn.
Fantastic. Excellent, good to hear. Diane, glad that you could make it here. Hopefully we haven't bored you to death. And I know that you can't answer that, but I'm probably glad that you can answer that. Hey, thanks everybody for attending. Appreciate your time, your input. Great to have everybody on the class team, and until we meet again, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody.
You bet. Bye now.